For generations, strong communities were built through wisdom, faith, and helping one another. We believe those things still matter. The Haven Project.
Well, like Tracy said, my name's Carrie. I've been here for 6 years, love Evergreen. And I am married to my husband, Kenny. We've been together for 20 years. Between the two of us, we have 5 kids. Our oldest is grown and lives on his own and has his own kids. And then the other 4 are kind of home and in the area and very involved in the youth. So you may know some of my kids. But we bought our house in 2018. We started homesteading in 2019. And every year it has just grown. And so this was not my heart initially, I will tell you. I am from Southern California with my bottom in the beach and my feet in the ocean. Never did I think I would live in Oklahoma. I didn't think I would be growing my own food. And I didn't think I'd be homeschooling my kids. But God, He had other plans for us. And so I'm in a much different place than I ever thought I would be. Now, my husband, on the other hand, he is from southeastern Oklahoma, and he kind of, when we met, he was running his family's produce stand and did some landscaping and stuff like that. So he actually grows our food. I always say, if he dies before me, I'm going to starve to death. I'll have 1 year of food, and then I'm going to starve because I kill the succulents. So as far as growing knowledge, I asked him to come along today so you can bombard him with your questions because I don't know them. But so how to get started and why did we get started? Well, growing your food and preparing for like long-term is actually very biblical. In Proverbs in a couple places. I didn't realize that the parable about the ant who works hard all summer to save for the winter and rest during the winter, I didn't even realize that was biblical until I started looking that up. It's actually mentioned in Proverbs twice. And so it is very biblical. We're not preppers in the sense that we do this out of any sort of fear. We do this because it's the right thing to do. These are the resources that the Lord has entrusted us with, and it's our responsibility to use our resources wisely. And so that's kind of what we do, and we got started little by little. And so tonight my goal is to teach you that no matter where you're at in your life or with what home you have or how much land you have, what can you do starting today to start this process? So that is my goal. Why food storage matters? Well, it's important to be emergency ready. Power outages, we've seen that for a couple of days at a time. Where we live, out in the country, we live in South Bixby, it would be nothing for an ice storm to take out our power or flooding. We get flooded in every single year in South Bixby. I don't know if any of you can appreciate that circumstance. But if we didn't have storages of things at our house, we would not have a way to get to the grocery store. If I am the one that works full-time at our house. My husband is retired, stays home, helps raise our kids, and he grows all of our food. If I get hurt, then there's no money coming into our house. And so that would mean it would be a huge burden to feed all of our 4 kids, which, by the way, they're all teenagers. So they eat a lot of food. And the littlest one, she eats more than all of us do. So if I didn't have the food at home, I'd be in trouble. And then also, I think they touched on this on the last workshop, but the average grocery store only has 3 days worth of food in it. And the average American household only keeps 7 days worth of food in their homes. So that's important. The other is the inflation buffer. If you buy in bulk, you are actually going to save a ton of money. One thing I learned, I've never been a stay-at-home mom before, except for 2 years, well, really 1 year. We moved to Georgia for my husband's job, and for the first year I stayed at home. And I never learned how to like budget or meal plan or any of that kind of stuff because I've always worked full time. And so I spent that year really trying to figure that out. And what I learned very quickly is that if I planned my meals out for 2 weeks at a time and bought in bulk for those 2 weeks, I saved so much money. And I had our grocery budget down to about $75 a week for a family. Well, at that time it was a family of 4. And it's the same now. If you plan and buy in bulk, you can save so much money, which means you're buying at today's prices. And as we all know, the prices just keep going up and getting more expensive. So you're like kind of locking in a lower price by doing this now. And then the last thing is just self-sufficiency. We know that the supply chain is very fragile. I mean, hello, toilet paper in 2020, like that was a big deal. I don't know why toilet paper was the thing, but in my mind, I was like, I'm just going to cut up strips and put them in a bleach bucket next to the toilet. That's the last thing I care about right now, but whatever. And so the supply chain is fragile, and really and truly at any time, anything can happen that breaks that supply chain, like a strike, and then the truckers don't deliver food to the grocery store. Like we've seen that. Not too long ago, a handful of years ago, we had a drought, and there wasn't enough, for those of you who are into cattle or know people in cattle, there wasn't enough hay in the hay fields, and the farmers didn't get 2 cuttings. They only got 1. And so they sent all their cows to be butchered, and then there was a huge shortage of beef, and people who did have cattle were literally driving into surrounding states to find food for their cattle. So again, this is all reasons, like we can't predict those things. This isn't about end times or any apocalyptic anything. That is a piece of it. The Bible does say that we're going to face hard times as believers. And so it is important that we are able to save for our families and then also to have enough to help our other brothers and sisters in Christ. I would like you guys to be thinking about, one of the things I hear all the time is, I don't have space in my house for a year's worth of things. That is probably one of the biggest things I hear. Well, guess what? I didn't either, but it turns out we actually do have space. So I want you to be thinking about things like the coat closet in the hallway. Do you really need a whole closet full of stuff that you really don't touch or look at? Maybe a coat, you mean to tell me your coat can't fit in your closet, your regular closet in your bedroom? Like, do we need a whole closet? Is that an option? In our home, we bought a big eat-in kitchen, and it has 2 blank walls. Well, on one of the blank walls, my husband built all built-in shelves on it. It wasn't there originally. He built built-in shelves, and that is actually where our food storage is. Now, I will tell you, we have a crawl space foundation, and jars are very heavy, and so he also had to go under and reinforce our foundation because our flooring because of that. So that's something to take into consideration. But shelving in garages, can you build shelves in your garage? Under bed storage. I do want you guys to kind of sit around for a few minutes, take 5 or 10 minutes, and just brainstorm. Think about all the nooks and crannies in your room that you can maybe take junk out of that you don't need and turn that into food storage. It may even be a spare bedroom. Maybe your kids are grown and out of the house and you have a guest bedroom that's not being used but once a year. Could you turn that into a big, huge walk-in pantry? So I do want you guys to just kind of brainstorm with each other, because you guys will think of things as you kind of talk it out, and then in a couple minutes we'll hear what you guys came up with. Okay, so on your worksheet on number 2, we're going to start sharing some ideas of what you guys came up with, and I would love for you to fill that in just so that you have something to go back and look at later on as the week goes on. And the question is what is something that you can do this week to begin preparing for more space? What are, did I say 3? 2. 2, made it easier on you guys, come on. What are 2 places in your house that you can clear out or in a lot for more food storage? So just, you want to throw out some answers?
I have a whole room that's a junk room.
Perfect. You could.
Something's got to get in there and decide what to do with what.
Perfect. I am sure there's a way that you could pare down to keep some junk and then half pantry. Yeah, we can. I have seen a lot of people who do store their freeze-dried stuff in Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers in totes in their garages. I do not store food in my garage other than that is where our extra freezers are. So our freezers are out there, so all most of our frozen food is in the garage. But there's actually another way in the garage I'm going to talk about in a little bit too. Yep. But you could put some of the stuff that's in the house out in the garage and then make room in the house for the food. Because that is what we have done in our house. Yeah, for sure. And who has linen closets that have 25 sets of sheets in them? And about 40 towels for the 2 people in your house, of about 15 of which you avoid grabbing because it has the hole in it, but we didn't throw it away. Like, we could pare down in our linen closets. They can go to the garage. Yes?
What about the idea of putting things that are in the house that can withstand the garage?
Correct.
And just trade out?
Yep, the garage and the attic are good places for that. Yes. Yep, a shed, same thing. Things that can go. I mean, I don't know that I would but you could put other things from the house in the shed. Like maybe you can put winter clothes in totes and put them out in the shed during the summer and trade it out. That way you have more room in your closet to move the things from the coat closet into there, and then you have a whole coat closet. Anybody else have anything? Any ideas?
Our house still has a dining room.
Right, so that was going to be one of the ones I was going to say is a formal dining room. A lot of people, who is really eating in a formal dining room? We made our formal dining room into a homeschool room, but when those kids are done and they are close, we'll have more space. Yeah, so that was one that I was going to mention. And then the other one that nobody mentioned that is huge where you can gain space is a vertical space. So how many of your cabinets does your food go from the bottom of the shelf to the top of the next shelf? Are you utilizing that vertical space? Most people are not. Most people will put a row of cans on the bottom. They may stack them too tall, but you still have half a shelf. You could literally double the amount of space in your pantry if you just went up. All right?
Your pantries stop about 6 foot up. Yeah. There's enough room to build another shelf.
Right, and so then that's my other thing to say is my husband has adjusted our shelves so that if I'm not going to use vertical space for something, he's lowered the shelf space and he's been able to, so that it fits the cans or bottles of a certain height. And so then he's able to adjust shelves that way, and potentially he hasn't had to add a shelf in our pantry, but in the shelving that he built on our wall, he did adjust heights for quarts and pints and was able to add a lot more shelves that way as well. So, yeah, those are all really good ideas. All right, so let's get into food storage. So what are the areas of food storage that you should be focusing on? This really isn't just about food, but when we're talking about the pantry, grains, pasta, dried beans, canned goods, honey, coffee. I know we're in the church house, but hear me out. Vodka and rum. This is how you make a lot of extracts for cooking. Yes, I have worn my Jesus is the way t-shirt into the liquor store and bought 2-liter bottles of vodka, and I feel really weird about it, but I'll just witness to them and tell them I'm making my vanilla, because that is what I am doing. Vinegar is massive because vinegar is really good for cleaning as well as preserving. I actually just shampooed all my carpets using vinegar. Sugar. Salt is huge. That's one people don't think about, but salt is a big food preservative. Spices. We store lard. We have lard on our shelf as well for a healthy cooking oil. Oats. You can store eggs. We have chickens and we water bath our eggs, and we have eggs in glass jars on our shelf that are almost 2 years old that are perfectly edible. You can only do it with fresh, unwashed eggs though. So if you have chickens, you can do this. If you have somebody who has chickens and you want to preserve eggs for the winter, you can do that. And I'm happy to tell anybody how to do that. That'd be interested in that, but eggs is a big one. Peanut butter, syrup. Just be thinking about your grocery list. When you make your grocery list, what are you eating regularly that you could in turn buy in bulk? Those are the things that you actually want to store. In the freezer, meat, fruit. I just figured out last year, I don't even know why I didn't think of it before, but we grew a bunch of cantaloupe. You know how melons are. You get 57 of them ready at one time. Nobody can eat that much melon. And so I cut up all the cantaloupe into chunks and threw it into freezer safe Ziploc bags, and my kids let it kind of thaw a little bit, and then they use the immersion blender and puree it and make a sorbet. So they eat a lot of cantaloupe sorbet in our house. But also berries, bananas, all kinds of frozen fruit. Yeast, you can store yeast long term in the freezer. So we have a lot of yeast. Dairy, we always have a lot of butter in our freezer. In fact, I just bought 12 more boxes of butter the other day. So we have 14 boxes of butter in our freezer right now. It freezes great. Cheese freezes really well if it's already shredded. So you're gonna wanna shred up your cheese first, and then you can put it in a freezer safe bag and put it in the freezer.
For cheese too, because we lived overseas, we had to put the cheese in the freezer.
Mm-hmm.
But thaw it on the counter, not in the refrigerator, and it works much better with the.
So I had done a lot of research and found that block cheese changes texture and it gets really crumbly, and that's why I say shred it first. And that might be why, because people are trying to let it thaw in the refrigerator.
Much
Better. Okay, well there you go.
at room temperature.
If you get block cheese, make sure you thaw it on the counter first. Thank you. That's why you got to do this, so we can all learn from each other. Veggies. One of the staples in our freezer, I would say, is we grow. So I will say, and we'll get into food growth a little bit. I'll put this down because I'm pushing buttons. Is that we grow the majority of our food at our house. We are a homestead, and we try to grow. We grow our food. We grow it for a year's worth of food. So onions. It's not uncommon for us to harvest 300 or 400 onions. So what we do with our onions is we dice them up, and the majority of them, well, we eat them fresh, but we dice them up and put them in gallon freezer bags. Well, we spread them out on a tray and kind of like freeze them so that, and then gather them up and stick them in the Ziploc bag. And then we just keep one in our kitchen freezer that we scoop up when we're cooking. We already have pre-diced onions. Same thing with bell peppers. That's a big one that we freeze. And then garlic, we grow all of our garlic again. So, but for you guys, you could buy at Costco, it's $10 for a bag of garlic cloves that are already peeled, which that is the worst part of preserving garlic. Already peeled, and it's even organic. And you could put it in the food processor with a little bit of olive oil and scoop it out into scoops on a cookie sheet and freeze it that way, and then gather all those little pucks up and stick them in a freezer safe bag. And then when you go to cook, you just pull one of your little garlic pucks out, and it already even has the olive oil in it, and you can cook that with your peppers and onions. I'm Italian, there's no better smell in the world to me than that. But so that's a big freezer thing for us. You can do chicken carcasses. Like if you want to start making your own bone broth, for those of you who buy like rotisserie chickens pretty regularly, you can save those rotisserie chickens in the freezer, and then when you're ready, you can throw them in a pot and fill it up with water and let it simmer. I recommend 24 hours at minimum. I like to go closer to 72 hours of simmering it. But that bone broth, to buy a quart of bone broth in the store is like $8 or $9 for a quart, and you're getting it for free on the leftovers you would normally throw in the trash. So we have those in our freezer. Lunch meat also freezes very, very well, so you can stock up on lunch meat when you find it on sale. In our most recent edition, we add something every year to all of our life, like all aspects. This last year, what we added is frozen potatoes to make our own French fries. So frozen French fries, we got a French fry thing, and sliced all the French fries and, boiled them for a second to blanch them and then freeze them. And now we have French fries in a bag so that we grew the potatoes we grew. And then non-perishables. We can't forget about the toilet paper. But medicine, if you're someone who's dependent on medicine, that's important to have a back stock of. Paper products like toilet paper, paper towels, paper plates. We use a lot of paper plates. And if you don't have electricity, you're going to want paper plates and utensils. You're not going to want to do dishes. Cleaning products, including homemade cleaners. You should have a first aid kit, so you should have some wound care items in your house, like rubbing alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, which the nurse in me is going to tell you don't use hydrogen peroxide except one time when the injury first happens. You don't use it after that. Laundry soap, and then if you have 3 teenage girls in your house like I do, don't forget the feminine products. And then ammunition, things like that. These are all things that you should be stocking up on. So anything other than medicine. Anybody come up with anything? Okay, so moving on. The best foods to stockpile. Here's a list of foods that are really good for a certain amount of times. So wheat berries are good for 30 plus years. I don't know if anybody has ever used wheat berries before. It's a very different flavor, closer to a sourdough. It takes a little bit of getting used to, and I do recommend like doing half and half until you have the taste for it because it's a much stronger grain. White rice, dried beans, rolled oats, pasta, sugar, salt, and honey are indefinite. Powdered milk and freeze-dried meals. You do have to have a freeze dryer for the freeze-dried meal part. Honey, I'm trying to find a source where I can buy like a 5-gallon bucket of honey since it has no shelf life. Still working on that, and it's expensive. It's several $100s to buy that. But pasta, I buy the organic pasta from Costco. It's not very expensive. And what we have is like a 5-gallon food grade bucket with a gamma lid, and we're going to talk about those here too. And they're like stackable, so I keep that stocked with pasta. You can also make your own pasta and just have fresh pasta. It's not very hard at all. Rolled oats, we keep all of this except the freeze-dried meal on hand at our house. Okay, so how to figure out a 1-year pantry. If you guys look in your stack of papers, what you're going to find is you're going to find one filled in and one blank one. The blank one is for you to take home. So let's look at the other one. This is my actual pantry, or it was. It's changed. This from a couple years ago. These 2 pages of some of the things that we keep on our shelf. We do keep all of these things on our shelf still. These are things that we source. Either we grow it and preserve it, or I find them somewhere else and preserve it. And the way that you figure it out is, like if you're going to go through a jar of jelly every single month, then you need 12 jars of jelly on your shelf. It's really very basic. If you are someone who eats green beans, a can of green beans with a meal every single week, then you need 52 cans of green beans on your shelf. If 2 cans are what feeds your family, because you've got a larger family, then you need 104. Sorry. I haven't even taught today. 104 cans on your shelf. What you have to be thinking about is, do you make casseroles that include these vegetables also? Do you make soups that include these vegetables also? So with us, because we grow our vegetables, I have quarts of vegetables that we use as a side dish, and I have pints of vegetables that I use in soups and casseroles and stews so that I don't waste a whole quart. But I also don't have enough room on the shelf for me to have all pint size for our meals and everything else. And so that's how we figure it out. So what you need to do is you need to be thinking about your grocery list and what makes your grocery list every week. That's what you are eating every week. That's what you need 52 of. So for people, think like diced tomatoes. How often do you make chili? or soup where you need diced tomatoes. And then how many cans do you use that with? Like average, do you use diced tomatoes every week? Do you use them just twice a month? If you use them just twice a month, then you need a lot less on your shelf for it. This changes, especially as kids change and as kids move out of the house or kids move back into the house. My kids are at the age where they're like 1 foot in and 1 foot out. Our 20-year-old just came back from college yesterday. I will continue to provide food for him until he's married and has his own kids, and then I'll probably still keep enough food to help him out, right? Like that's what parents do. So you just got to think about like your situation. I try to have enough vegetables that we can have a different vegetable every day of the week. So I need 52 servings of 7 different vegetables. Really, I do 6 because we always eat leftovers. So I pick 6 vegetables, and so we grow broccoli, cauliflower, okra, squash, zucchini, green beans, corn, peas, carrots, and potatoes. So we have lots of vegetables that we can choose from. But I want to make sure that I have enough that we can have a different vegetable every day of the week times 52 weeks. Very simple. Beans, you can store your beans. We also can our beans, so that way when we want beans, we can take them off the shelf. I have one kid that 90% of the time she thinks she's vegetarian and refuses to eat meat. It's a texture thing. And she lives off of beans. She makes herself pinto beans, refried beans, and by refried, she heats them up and uses the immersion blender on them. She eats beans like 4 days a week. And so we are constantly canning beans for the shelf. Are you going to eat dried beans in a bucket? Probably not as often as if they were already cooked and on the shelf so that you could just dump them. So heads up, a canning class is coming, and we'll teach you how to do that. But black beans, pinto beans, baked beans, navy beans. I'll tell you a funny story about my husband. Sorry. I love hummus. I love hummus, and he does not like hummus. And I noticed that chickpeas or garbanzo beans kept making the list. And I'm like, why is he writing this on the list? And I'm like, he doesn't even like hummus. What else do you do with beans? And he said to me, I asked him, why are we buying garbanzo beans? He goes, well, somebody would have just told me it was bean dip. I would have liked it. So now we have chickpeas, and I have yet to make hummus with them, but they're there on the shelf. I never thought about it. It's just bean dip. Hummus is just bean dip. Tomatoes, pasta sauce. I don't know if you guys grow tomatoes and canned tomatoes, but it's very difficult to grow enough tomatoes to have a year's worth of pasta sauce on the shelf because it takes a lot of tomatoes to make a jar of pasta sauce. But we do pasta sauce and pizza sauce. That's not something I'll buy. It's only something I'll can. Ketchup, I have made my own ketchup. I now buy organic from Aldi. Barbecue sauce, haven't yet to make that. Salsa, pickle, sweet relish. And then I like to have canned fruit on the shelf for the kids to use as snacks. And then the other thing that I would say, there's also a big section of pretty much our spice cabinet is all stuff that we've grown at this point. There's a few things in there that we haven't, that we like Cajun seasoning and Lowry seasoning salt. But a lot of the stuff we actually grow. One of the things that I would say when you're doing a 1-year pantry is make sure that you have some things in there for treats, because if you really were in a position where times were really hard, morale is kind of low in your house, it is kind of nice to pull out a pint of strawberry lemonade concentrate and have with your kids some strawberry lemonade, or to pull out a jar of peach pie filling and make, peach pie, because then otherwise you just need, butter and flour to do it. So I do think you should think about those kind of things to add into your pantry, just some fun stuff. And then I gave you guys a blank one so that way you don't have to do it tonight, but you can start paying attention to your list or think through your normal grocery list and start writing down your staples of things that you normally buy every week or however you grocery shop, and put it on here and start thinking about how much would you need to get yourself through a year. All right, so we're actually going to take another few minutes. I want you guys to think about 3 things in each of these categories that you think that you should stock up on. Like, what are the top 3 things in each one of these categories? And write them down on your paper. You have some space on your paper for that. And start getting a list together. So canned goods, freezer goods, boxed and packaged items, and spices. Okay, let's talk about like some of the canned foods. So I don't know what you guys wrote for canned foods, but in our house, like the top canned foods things that we grab off our shelf on a regular basis are chicken broth, beans, and green beans probably. Would you agree with that? Probably. We were talking back there. Oh. I said the top 3 things we grab off our shelf probably are chicken broth, beans, pinto beans specifically because of my daughter, and green beans. Yeah. So if I was just starting and I was going to pick something to stock up on, that's what I would want to stock up on. Because let me tell you, it's a waste of money for you to stock up on stuff you're not going to eat or you don't regularly eat. So I don't care how good the sale is. If you're not going to eat it, it's a waste of money. So don't do that. Yeah, and space, right? And we've already learned space is valuable. So for then freezer goods, for us, that would look like chicken, butter. There you go. There you go. Put your nuts in the freezer. Yes, berries. Yeah. So that's probably vegetables, chicken, and butter. It would probably be my 3 that we would put in the freezer. Yes.
Can you do the same with homemade butter?
Yes. Yes, you can.
What was the question?
Can you do the same with homemade butter? Yep, you can.
Still fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can actually freeze gallons of milk too.
I did know that.
Yep. For boxed or packaged items, for us, this would probably be pasta, my husband's favorite tortilla chips, and ketchup. If I had to guess, that's what it would be. And then for spices, for us, it would be salt, probably pepper of some sort. We have black pepper, and that's primarily what we use, but if I didn't have black pepper, we also have all the dried peppers that we've also grown, so we could easily replace with that. And Cajun seasoning. We go through a lot of Cajun seasoning in my house. So yeah, that's what mine would look like. Okay, there's a bunch of different ways that you can preserve food. We can just about everything in our house. I realize that's not everybody's reality. It should start to become your reality because I'm going to tell you about how to buy food. But for right now, here's some other ways that you can preserve your food. Water bath canning is something you could all do easily right at your skill level with what you have in the house right now. And this is going to be your high acid foods, fruits, jams, pickles, tomatoes. These are inexpensive and they have a good shelf life. All right, there's pressure canning. This is where you get a lot more diversity and it's where your protein comes in. So we pressure can our chicken, beef, and venison, as well as chicken broth. Like chili bases, we do chili, different. I have done split pea soup that I never ate, and nobody in my house likes it either. And vegetables. Dehydrating, you can get dehydrators for very inexpensive and start dehydrating food. This is what we do with all of the spices that we grow. We dehydrate them and then grind them up and put them in mason jars. You can also do that with fruit and eat dehydrated fruit. Freeze drying would be amazing. I personally, I don't like to buy high dollar appliances that I may not be able to use should we not have electricity. So like grain mills, ours is a manual grain mill. Like I don't like my pasta maker. I have an attachment because I got it for Christmas. I use my manual one. I don't want to become dependent on anything that requires electricity in my house, especially not a $5,000 freeze dryer. But if you did have one or access to one, this is the way to go because you would be able to do home meals for 20 and 30 years at a time. We don't have that at our house. If you do that, you will need Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers. Some of the other ways that you can preserve food is the freezer. The freezer is not my husband's favorite way because he worries about power outages and then losing all that money in the freezer. Some people say, well, I have a generator. Well, if you don't have gas, you can't fill your generator, so you still lose it. So again, it's one of those things that we just try to learn learn how to live without rather than another crutch. But we do have freezers. I would have to quickly start preserving all the food in the freezer. I've had to do that before when one of my kids left the freezer door open. It was unfortunate. We just canned it all up. You can get vacuum sealed mason jars, and you can store food that way. And when I was talking about vertical space, we store food in big, tall Tupperware containers that have the lid with the flaps that go on all four sides and it seals in. That's what my rice is in. We grew popcorn one year. That's what our popcorn is in. We have our breadcrumbs in there, is in one of them. I think we have an empty one. 5-gallon buckets with gamma lids. These are food grade buckets, and these are lids that twist on, screw on, and seal your food in there. That's what we store our flour, sugar, oats, beans, rice, wheat berries, and popcorn in. Whoa. I'll put it down. Now, I will say when it comes to 5-gallon buckets, when they're full, that's very heavy. I'm getting older. So I chose to buy 3-gallon buckets, and I just have 2 3-gallon buckets, and that's the length or the depth of the cabinet. So that way I only have to lift up 3 gallons at a time. I wanted it to be like sustainable for me long term. So that's another way that we preserve our food. If you're going to buy things like rice in plastic bags, keep in mind that those don't stay fresh for very long because they're permeable to air. So you're going to want to store those in a bucket with a gamma lid, if that's how and that's what we do with our pasta. Okay, so what about letting food go bad? We do 2 things here. First in, first out rotation, meaning when I buy something new, if I'm stocking up on something, I put it behind the oldest stuff so that we eat the oldest stuff first. I don't label everything, but you could. We go through our food, right? It's our working pantry. We're not storing it to never use it. We eat out of our pantry. That brings us to eat what you store. There's nothing more satisfying than pulling a bunch of jars off the shelf and making a meal and seeing all the jars for me on my counter. I'm like, I didn't even have to go to the store for that. And then track your inventory. So about once a month, when I go to the grocery store once a month, I take a look at all the cabinets and see what we have and what we need. And I set aside a certain budget every single month that is just for stocking up. And I tend to write those things at the bottom of the list. Like this month, this is what I'm putting my money towards stocking up on. And then I buy a whole year's worth of it when I stock up on that thing, or I try to. Some of the more expensive things I can't, like laundry detergent, so I just keep like 4 months worth of laundry detergent, not a full year of that. It's expensive when it's laundry detergent time. And then the other thing that I do is I do a pantry challenge. Now, there is a whole trend on social media about a pantry challenge, but what a pantry challenge is it means eating out of the food that you have in your house right now, and you do not go to the grocery store to prepare for it. Where are the holes? So the reason why I do that, and we do it in February and March every single year, and I don't do it, a lot of the social media starts it in January. We have my birthday, my daughter's birthday, my son's birthday, and my anniversary the first week of January, and it's all right after Christmas. So I'm pretty broke by February, so that's a good time to not go to the grocery store. We do February and March, and what that does is it first allows me to eat through some things that need to be eaten through. Even before I did a pantry or a 1-year pantry, I would buy that cherry pie filling for this recipe I saw on Pinterest that I had every intention of making and never made, and it's still sitting on the shelf. It's actually still sitting on the shelf. Or the cut of meat that you got and it's at the bottom of the freezer and you forgot about it. Or maybe you are in a hunting family or a fishing family and you have cuts of meat from your deer that you got that you just don't reach for. So this is a good time to reach for those things in the bottom of the freezers and in the back of the cabinets. But the other thing it does is it exposes our weaknesses. So it allows me to see where we need to, I didn't realize my kids like green beans. So now we got to grow green beans this year, right? Like next year we will grow the green beans and they will not eat them. I'm sure of it. That's the way it always works. But it does expose those weaknesses. For us, it just showed that we're really weak in the dairy area. If push came to shove, we would become a non-dairy household because we just don't have dairy access on our own piece of property and don't intend to get it. So we're just going to have to live without it. It also allowed me to learn new skills during this time. We ran out of bread, so I learned to make bread. I needed to learn to make bread for a long time. I sucked at it for a long time, but I made enough terrible loaves that I finally make really great bread and dinner rolls and hamburger buns. I learned to make tortillas, corn. I cannot master flour, and I grew up in a Mexican family. I still cannot make flour tortillas, but corn tortillas, we've mastered that. We learned how to make our own pasta. We learned how to do things through this challenge because we wanted them and we weren't allowed to go to the store for them. So that's one of the ways we keep our food rotation from going bad. It's also one of the ways it tests us on how we do if we are like self-reliability kind of thing. All right, the 4 enemies of food storage. Oxygen is one of them. So this is where our canning comes in, or oxygen safe storage containers comes in. You could use oxygen absorbers. Moisture is another enemy of food storage. So you should, if you have a moisture issue, you want to use oxygen absorbers. Light won't make your food go bad, but it will make the nutrition content, the nutrient denseness of it go down. So you want to try to store your food in the dark. We actually do not do this. Ours is all in an open pantry. Hopefully we'll have doors one day, but that's not a top priority for us. And then temperature. So every 10 degrees doubles the storage life. So you really want to aim for 50 to 75 degrees. We keep our house at 71 for the most part. And so our house is a good place to store. Now I did see in places where they built out false walls and put an air conditioning unit in it and made like a cool storage in their garage. I have asked my husband about that. He doesn't love that idea. Again, back to electricity. You could do some sort of root cellar thing. We always had black widows in the storm shelter, so it scares me to have food storage underground because I don't know how you keep the spiders out. But that's one of the things that you could do. I don't know what our plan is there. We have a lot of work to do ourselves, so that's on our list as well, actually. We've talked about this, like packaging for long-term storage, Mylar bags, 5-gallon buckets, or 3 if you're thinking long-term, in mason jars. You will use a lot of mason jars if you start canning. Yeah, we have a lot. We probably have 3,000 or 4,000 mason jars. So you will have a lot. On shelves, that's part of our stuff that's in the garage. We store them on shelving in our garage. Cellar storage, here's some things on why a root cellar is good. These are things that we know, we just don't have one. Again, there are things that we improve on every year as well, and this is on our list at some point along with a well for water. Water. This is a weakness for us is water. It's probably a weakness for most people. This is showing you how much water you need for the average family and how to store it. We do keep some water on hand. One of the other things that I would like to start doing is all of those empty jars that are sitting on the shelf in my garage, I would like them to be sitting on my shelf with water in them. So that way I could have water in an emergency because they're just sitting there. They might as well sit there and hold something. Okay, we have just a little bit more time, but I want to talk to you guys about the non-perishables. I would like for you guys to write on your paper some non-perishables that you can come up with that you need to start storing. That's number 6 on your second page. And you guys can work together because, again, some of you will think of something that the others didn't think of, and it's very helpful. Okay, let's listen to what you guys had. So what are some things that you guys thought of for household supplies? Cleaning, bleach, yes, bleach is huge. Vinegar. What? Yep. You're my people. No, just kidding. I mean, yes, but just kidding. Oh, she said vodka. It's a good antiseptic, and it's good for, it's really good for antiseptic and for food preservation. What else? Tourniquets, yes. Cat tourniquets specifically. Yep. I mean, I have like 15 in my house, so what else? So for household cleaning supplies, I have vinegar, hydrogen peroxide, laundry soap. For paper goods, I have toilet paper, paper towels, paper plates, plastic utensils. Think about power outages. For personal hygiene products, I have feminine products, soap, shampoo, razors. We got a lot of girls in our house. Contact solution, 2 of us wear contacts. Toothpaste, toothbrushes, deodorant. For medications and first aid, Tylenol, ibuprofen, Benadryl for allergic reactions and rashes. Band-Aids, something like Orajel. I actually have toothache plant for that, so that's one of the homeopathic things that we use. Hydrocortisone, I have one kid that gets rashes nonstop. Burn cream and any prescriptions. Burn cream can also be like aloe vera, something more natural. Where to shop? So not all of you grow all of your food the way that I do, I assume. And I would be remiss if we left here tonight with you thinking there's no way that you can store this amount of food because you don't even have a garden. I don't buy only things from our garden. We simply cannot grow everything. And we, for the love of all that is holy, cannot seem to grow peaches. Our peach trees, we've got a lot of them, and they look beautiful and promising every year, and we have yet to can a peach from our peach trees. But we can find things other places. So I would start first by supporting local. My kids are homeschooled. We belong to the Broken Arrow homeschoolers group. And in there one day I asked the question, does anybody have any fruit trees or bushes that they have gotten everything that they want to off of them and the rest of the fruit is just going to fall to the ground and rot? Could I come and pick it? And I'd be happy to share some things I can. And I got a response back to come pick her pear tree. And I didn't need to give her anything because she already canned everything. And we picked 100 pounds of pears that year. Wow. We still have pears on our shelf. We made pear syrup, pear preserves, pear sauce, and pears with it. So don't be afraid to just ask that question. A lot of people who have land have fruit trees on their land and they simply cannot eat all of that. So first start there. That's free. Then move on to things like farmers markets. There's lots of farmers markets out here. Develop relationships with the people around you who grow food. Because when times get tough, they will know you. You will be one of their friends, one of their regulars, and they will sell you food when you can't get it in the grocery store. That year that beef was short, it was really hard to get beef in the grocery store, and it was certainly hard to get it at any sort of price that you could afford. But if you had a relationship with a farmer, you would be able to get those things. We are very lucky in that there are several stores coming up all over Broken Arrow specifically. Okie Family Market is one of them that I can think of off the top of my head. Handmade is another one where they sell some local stuff. But this Okie Family Market sells lots of chicken and beef and eggs and farm products there. So it's like an indoor farm store. You'd have to just look it up. There's 2 of them, I think.
31st and Elm is one of them.
Yeah. You can buy direct from the farmers. We talked about that. And then you can also barter or trade with other people. I'm open to trade. I will tell you that there are people in this church that will trade with you. One of the church members, he came down and cut down some trees for us and traded us for the amount of money that he would have charged in eggs. And we paid him in fresh eggs for a year. Like, there are people in this church willing to help you out if you can establish that sort of relationship. Past that, my next choice would be warehouses. I like Azure Standard. I've used them one time and loved it, but their drop-off days have always been on days where I'm teaching, so I can't count on that. but Costco and Sam's Club would be the others. I prefer Costco because I really try to buy organic as much as possible, and Costco has a better selection of that, and their prices are very good. And then grocery stores, I would catch sales. Just stay focused on that. When you go into the store, stay focused on your sale. That's what you're stocking up on. Things that we buy at the store, we buy cherries at the store and we pit them and jar those up. We buy mandarin oranges at the store, the cuties. The bags of cuties are like $5 at Costco for a 5-pound bag. We peel those, scrub the pith off, quarter it all up, and can them in a light simple syrup because my kids love mandarin oranges. Pineapple, whenever pineapple goes under $2, I dice up pineapple and we can that up for a snack. But also, I would recommend that you set aside, if you can, just a few dollars of your weekly budget. Maybe it's $10 a week. $40 will buy you a year's worth of ketchup. $40 will buy you a lot of flour. You can stock up on $40 a month. And little by little, you won't need as much. We are at the point now where in our family, our grocery budget for the month is roughly $400 for 5 people. And that includes laundry detergent, cleaning products, dog food, cat litter, and stocking up for the whatever holes need to be filled. So these are your next steps. I want you to attempt, if you're willing to be so brave, where you're at right now without going to the grocery store. I would like you to eat out of your current kitchen food supplies for the next 2 weeks and see how far you get. That's going to expose how much food you actually have in your house. I don't want you to starve because you don't go to the store, right? Like, go to the store if you're going to starve. But I want you to try to eat for 2 weeks. See if you have 2 weeks worth of food in your house. I also want you to create one new space in your home for storage. Just one. I want you to set a budget. Prayerfully set aside a weekly or monthly budget and choose 3 items to stock up on. You may be in a place where all you can stock up on is ketchup or green beans. That's okay. But choose to stock up on something. Remember, it's got to be something you eat. It's a waste of money if it's not something you eat. I would love to see you guys determine your needs. Use the formula we learned today about how much you actually need and start filling out your list for your pantry. And then once you do that and you're feeling brave and accomplished, I would like for you to stock up on 3 months worth of food. Just 3, not a whole year. And if you can imagine, or if you can manage to stock up on 3 months, I promise you'll be like so excited that it'll roll further and further and further until you have a year's worth of food. I literally started canning jelly. I did not know how to. I had a pressure canner for 6 months, and I watched YouTube videos, hundreds of them, and I was terrified I was going to give my family botulism or blow the roof off the house. So for 6 months, I did not use that pressure canner. And the day I did use it, he and I both were watching YouTube videos. Pause. Is that right? You think that's right? Okay, watch it again. Nope, turn it off. Let's watch it again. It was a process, and now we both can. He cans. My girls can. My girls cook from scratch. My girls grow in the garden. It's now a family thing. Yeah, it definitely was not overnight. And I don't mean for it to sound easy like it was overnight. Our busiest time of year is probably July, August, September for canning, because that's when the majority of our food's coming out of the garden. That gets canned. During the colder months, what comes out of the garden is like our broccoli, our cauliflower. That stuff gets frozen, so we don't can. Then I can chicken broth kind of throughout the year as we need it. I think our canning area holds close to 2,500 jars, and that's we try to keep it full. It's getting low now because it's about to be the season to add to it. Yeah, I would say I wake up and start canning, and he and I are on different sleep schedules. I'm usually up by 6:30, and then he stays up till 2 or 3. Don't be trying to come take our food. There's always somebody awake in our house. Typically, I start canning and I get tired around 8 or so, and I leave a list, and he continues the canning on into the night. And that is, almost every night during those. So I also work full-time, and I homeschool. And so, there's a lot.
We're all capable of doing it.
Oh yeah, everyone says, I don't have time. Like, no, I don't have time, and I still do it. You make time for what's important to you. And for us, our food for our family is important to us. So you will make time for what's important to you. I have learned that self-sufficiency is important, but community is important. And that's really what these classes are about, is community. Like, no one can do everything. We cannot do everything on our own. We really do need everyone to find their wheelhouse and do it so that we can all benefit together and help each other. It is my prayer every single year as we go through the garden that we grow enough for ourselves, enough for nature, and enough to share. My husband's he has made the comment, if he could put a gate on the thing where believers could walk through to our garden and we can have communion and talk about Jesus and go through the garden, every single person is welcome to our house.